Breaking news, Bryce Young is the number one pick for the Carolina Panthers. I'm Luis Fernandez. He's Mark Bergin. This is WRAL Triangle and Two. A bit of an emergency pod type situation. We're going to give you instant reactions to the pick by the Panthers here. Number one overall, going with Alabama quarterback, the first Alabama player to be selected number one overall. Bryce Young, he's pretty good, Mark. What are your first thoughts?
Love him or hate him, we're going to be talking about his size between now and week one of the 2023 season, Lewis. And this was pretty clear really from mid-April when the odds really shifted. Early on when the Panthers got the number one overall pick, it looked like, okay, it was going to be C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State. And then something flipped and the odds changed drastically in Young's favor. For better or for worse, you've got Bryce Young, 5'10", 204 pounds. So, Lewis, you've got the numbers on how the odds are stacked against him in terms of the history of undersized quarterbacks in this league. You're hoping that Bryce Young is an outlier, that he's an exception, not the norm when it comes to smaller quarterbacks in the NFL.
Sure. We have a video on WRL Sports Fan right now, but, there's 522 quarterbacks have been drafted since 1970. I believe it's 21 of them were 6 foot even. And that's where you have like Joe Theismann and Drew Brees, who have won Super Bowls. Joe Theismann won an MVP. Drew Brees finished runner-up to MVP twice. By the way, did you know that Joe Theismann's name is actually Joe Theismann, but he had it changed when he was trying to get a Heisman at Notre Dame?
I did not know that, Lewis.
I found that out today.
You're teaching me some history here on WRAL Triangle and Two.
I found that out today. Back to the topic at hand. Quarterbacks that are 5'11". Off the top of my head, if I remember, it was, I want to say 6 of them in total, maybe a little bit more than that. But Russell Wilson really is the guy to write home about. Obviously, he's won a Super Bowl. And then when it comes to 5'10", that's the shortest that a quarterback has been when they were drafted since 1970. And the 3 quarterbacks, the second guy's escaping me, but the 2 main ones are Kyler Murray and Doug Flutie. Those are the main ones. So both of them had success. And I think the big key there is those that were drafted at 5'10", they had a lot of production in college. They won the Heisman. Bryce Young now adding to that mix, being 5'10", and I think a quarter technically. He won the Heisman. He's the only Alabama quarterback to ever win the Heisman. Mm-hmm. And so he continues to add that to the mix. 9, and this will be the last stat I rattle off here, but 9 quarterbacks at 6 feet tall or shorter have started a playoff game that were drafted since 1970. And 3 of them have won a Super Bowl, and those are Joe Theismann, Russell Wilson, and Drew Brees. So yeah, it's working against the odds, but it is not impossible. That's for sure.
Lewis, it's really 50-50 when it comes to quarterbacks, especially in the first round. And I'll say this, what stuck out to me tonight was how buttoned up Bryce Young was with all of his responses. They seemed a little rehearsed, but I'd rather have your quarterback be the face of the franchise, the CEO. That's how you have to comport and how you have to conduct yourself. Now, whether he's successful or not, I've always said, you got to have 5 bodyguards in front of him. But I look at the quarterbacks in the NFC South division, and what are we working with? It's a lot of mediocrity, Lewis.
It's an empty cupboard.
The Buccaneers have Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, who we don't know what to expect. Saints have Derek Carr, who's a serviceable veteran. Falcons have Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. So if Bryce Young's worth his merit, maybe not in 2023, maybe 500 gets you into the playoffs, but what does success look like with this pick? It's being around 500, being in one of the worst divisions in the NFL. Maybe you can sneak into the playoffs, but come 2024, 2025, while Bryce Young's on his rookie deal, you hope that the Panthers can get back into contention, not just in the NFC South, but in the NFC overall. Go back to a Super Bowl. That's the hope with this pick.
Exactly. I mean, and I don't think the NFC South is going to be as bad as last year, just because I don't think it's possible for them to be as bad as they were last year. The Panthers had one of the worst offenses in the league, had a solid defense, and they were right there. You almost won the division at the very end, if not for a couple of games against the Buccaneers there. But I think the Saints will be better. I think Derek Carr, he's going to have some great weapons, Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, if he ever stays healthy. In New Orleans, I think he's got a lot of possibilities there. Alvin Kamara. So I mean, I still imagine that the Saints are going to be the front runners in that division. But if the Panthers were able to accomplish what they did last year with the team they had, adding a quarterback like Bryce Young, who I think comes in with a lot of the intangibles already. He comes in with a lot of the ready to go type skill sets that you need in the quarterback. A lot of things that Bryce Young is so good at are hard to teach. If Bryce Young was 6'2", and I know he's not 6'2", but if Bryce Young was 6'2", this would have been no question easy slam dunk. Panthers might not have been able to get him because maybe more teams would have been trying to trade up to that number 1 pick.
Yeah, good point.
So if I'm a Panthers fan, I look at this as like, man, this is a really good place to be at. You see if he can get you out of kind of that NFL purgatory and get you into a position where you're in the playoffs and hosting games at Bank of America Stadium, if not at the very least, trying to go have some fun.
Yeah, and trying to get your quarterback that they haven't had since Cam Newton left for the first time, Lewis. That's really the big thing, whether it was Bridgewater and then Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, and it's just like I could go on and on. Bryce Young becoming the first ever number 1 overall pick for Nick Saban. I thought that was pretty incredible. And then about Bryce?
Alabama in general, too, in general.
Bryce Young and Will Anderson, first Alabama teammates drafted in the top 5 of the NFL draft. So congrats to both of those players. Anderson going to the Texans. Texans very aggressive, taking C.J. Stroud at number 2, and then trading up in a trade with the Cardinals to get Anderson. So, Lewis, I mean, I don't know. I still, part of me says, should they have gone Stroud? Should they have gone Anthony Richardson? Time will tell. But I thought you hit the nail on the head with your segment, is that you're banking on that Bryce Young is the exception, not the rule when it comes to undersized quarterbacks. And there's people with a lot of offense of experience, not just Frank Reich, but Jim Caldwell, Josh McCown in the Panthers organization, that collectively they make this decision. And we'll look back on this, not just this season, but in years 2, 3, and 4, while Young is on his rookie deal, if he's worth his salt. And we've talked about this on previous episodes of this show, Lewis. You look at the gauntlet of all the AFC quarterbacks, and Lamar's going to be back with the Ravens. We find that out tonight.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers getting traded to the Jets. There's a huge void in the NFC when it comes to talent at the quarterback position. It's a great opportunity for the Panthers. And that premium that you paid for the number 1 overall pick may end up being a bargain if Bryce Young pans out.
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's so hard to tell, like, okay, who's going to be, but that's the question we're all asking, right? Okay, which one of these quarterbacks taken? Anthony Richardson going to the Colts at 4. Which one of these quarterbacks taken, is the real deal? Is the one that we're going to look back on like, yeah, that's the guy. No. First off, they could all be successful. Number 1. Success is not necessarily. It's a coin flip,
Lewis. When it comes to quarterbacks, if it was an exact science, I think there'd be a heck of a lot more good quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I think at this point, like I always look at, if someone has the mental tools to handle quarterback, the processing, the ability to read defenses, handling a lot on their plate, all of that kind of stuff, and then if that is, to me, that sets a floor, and that's okay. Where do the physical tools take them as well? I think that both Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud, I think they were both safe picks. I think that they makes total sense. I totally understand why they go 1 and 2. I think Anthony Richardson could end up being like the steal of the draft for the Colts, depending on if his physical tools end up carrying over into the NFL if he continues to grow as a quarterback. But I think ultimately, I really like this pick for the Panthers. I feel very good about Bryce Young for the Panthers. Now it's all about Carolina doing what they can to build around him.
Yep.
Rookie quarterbacks, a lot of times, really talented ones, will struggle, will fail because the team does not build around them. So they need to continue to draft offensive linemen, protect him, help him learn to protect himself. But when it comes to coaching staffs, I really don't think that there is a better staff for a rookie quarterback right now to walk into than what the Panthers have in Charlotte. whether it be Frank Reich or
I
anything.
want to wrap here. I want to ask you, I kind of outlined how I project Young going to the Panthers this season beyond. What constitutes success? How is Young successful with this pick? What would be a successful season in 2023 and beyond with this pick tonight?
It's tough. I think it's tough to say in this season, right? Because I want to look at what the
totally
schedule
there
is,
with
all
you.
this stuff.
Yeah.
If Bryce Young develops, and if you feel like, just purely from a quarterback perspective, if you feel like Bryce Young is a better quarterback at the end of the season than he was at the beginning, I think that is a success. Now, what does that look like team wise? I think if Bryce Young has a good season, I feel very confident the Panthers are in contention to win the NFC South. If he is doing well, I think they are right there. And then big picture as a whole, if you get Bryce Young to his second contract, because with the quarterback market, the way things work, if you're giving a quarterback a second contract, then that means that he is your guy and you love him because you're going to be paying him a boatload of money, like we saw with Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson this week.
Yeah. Joe Burrow's going to be making $60 million, Lewis. Let's be honest here after this Lamar news tonight.
It's so funny when you look at like the little ratchets of, the quarterbacks just kind of getting more paid and more paid and more paid. It's like Lamar Jackson was like $5 million more guaranteed than Jalen Hurts. And now it's going to be like, okay, here comes Justin Herbert with $5 million more guaranteed. Now here's Joe Burrow with $5 million more guaranteed. The salary cap is just going to be through the roof with these quarterbacks.
I'll say one other thing. Keep him upright, keep him healthy. And when he's scrambling, I know he's not necessarily a scrambling quarterback. Get out of bounds, teach him to slide. Let's get Bryce Young throughout the duration of the 2023 season healthy and on the field. It might not be fireworks and lighten up the scoreboard right away. Stay patient, surround him with some talent, see what he can do. If you get 5 bodyguards in front of him, and they've got one in Ike Ekwonu at the left tackle position, the 6th overall pick a year ago out of NC State. You get 4 other guys up front, and you're going to be rolling here in no time. But you got to be patient. It's not going to be dynamic right away. But if you're a Panthers fan, you got to be sitting pretty and a lot more confident than you were when you were sitting several weeks back with the number 9 overall pick. You just have the 1st overall pick. There's finally optimism and excitement really for the first time again since Cam Newton left town for the first time, Lewis. That's where I'm at tonight.
I agree. I think that's fair. That is going to do it for us. Just a quick little instant reaction here on the Panthers picking number 1. Thank you all so much for watching WRAL Triangle and Two. Find us wherever you listen to your podcast. Find us on the 999 The Fan YouTube page. Find us on WRALSportsFan.com. We'll see you on Monday with more reaction from the Panthers draft. 5 more picks to go. We'll see y'all later.